In this lesson, we'll begin drawing trees and shrubs for our site. Alright, so we're starting to make some progress with our site here, and we're starting to really be able to tell the story about what's going on. We've got our surrounding buildings, we've got our property line, our fence, so now we can actually start focusing on developing this site, the existing conditions anyway. So I want to start off by drawing trees and also some shrubs, and very similar approaches, but mostly just different dimensions, and one is more repetitive than the other. So we'll start off with a tree, and I actually have a tree that's going to be located in this corner. So before we start drawing, I'm going to go ahead and create a layer for my vegetation or my landscaping. So I'm going to go ahead and say trees, and I'll go ahead and make one for shrubs as well. So we'll add another one, and we'll call this one shrubs. Now if you wanted to, you could put them all on one landscaping layer, but I'm going to kind of divide mine up just a little bit. So we'll jump to my tree layer, we'll make that one current. And now we'll draw a tree, and basically to do this, it's going to be three main components. It's going to be a circle, it's going to be some hatching, and it's going to be also some polylines. So we'll start with that tree in this area. So I'm going to go with my circle tool, and we're going to draw a nice circle, and I'm going to pay attention to that radius that's being called out. So I've got a radius of about, about 3.5 feet. So it's going to need to be, we'll say 3 feet 6 inches, and that's going to be the size of my tree. So now all I need to do is use my polyline, and I'm going to turn off my ortho. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically use this circle as a guide or a template to create my leaves in plan view. So we can start here, and it's actually pretty random. So it's a matter of just clicking around, and it could be a pretty tedious process, but the end result is going to be a really cool looking tree. And the trick is to try to make this look as, much of a tree as you can. You don't want it to look, you don't want to have very many straight lines, any kind of obvious geometry. You want to try to make it as organic and random as possible. So again, I'm just going to kind of work my way around, and it doesn't look like much now, but it will here shortly once we add some extra features to this. But again, all I'm doing is clicking and using that circle as a guide to get this accomplished. Now, there's a lot of ways, techniques you can go about doing this, but this one is a pretty easy, but it creates a really cool effect. So we've got that in place, right? So now we really don't need this circle anymore, so I can erase that. But what I do want to do is I want to make some adjustments to this. This is a little bit too sharp right there. So what we can do now is take this, I'm going to copy it, and all I'm going to do is create an offset. So before we do that, I'm going to explain why. On my site, we're actually facing north. You could tell this is the north face here. But the sun's actually going to be hitting our site on the south face here. So any trees that I place in my site, I'm going to take into account where the sun's hitting those trees. So if the sun is hitting, coming here on the south face here, blasting our building here, that means we're going to have a shadow cast on this side. So that lets me know I need to grab what we just copied, and I'm just going to shoot it up just a little bit, like such, and I'll hit escape. So then I'm going to select the one we just moved up, and I'm going to type in trim, T-R-I-M, and hit enter. And now anything down here on the bottom, I'm going to actually delete. That's not part of my actual cutting edge, so we'll get rid of this stuff. Real simple. And I'm only going to delete what's on the bottom here. So now what we can do is we can hatch to create the effect of maybe a shadow. So I'll do hatch. We'll go with solid, and I'm just going to hatch in. Actually, we'll go with this ANSI. This will give me more of a sketchy look, and I'm going to change the scale to that as well. So let's adjust that scale to be 10. See what that does for us. Yep, it gives us that nice sketchy line hand work look. So I'm simply going to go highlight the areas that look like they might actually be cast or actually have a shadow. And that'll mainly be that half. So we're not totally done yet. So now what we can do is we can grab our line, and I can basically use this first line as a guide. And basically from the midpoint of this line, I'm going to create the effect of branches. And I'm going to give it a real sketchy look. So a lot of the lines are actually going to be kind of outside of the bounds a little bit, so you can see. And I don't mind that at all, because I'm definitely going for that hand-drawn, sketchy look in this day of everything being so digital. So I'll go ahead and kind of do like this, and I'm going to kind of randomly select how I disperse these branches. But you can see kind of overlapping just a bit gives it that really cool sketchy look. So I'm going to bring this down just a bit more. I don't want to do it too much. But there we go. We've created a really cool looking tree. Kind of looks like it was hand drawn as well. So now I can highlight this element, and we're going to go to create block, and I'm going to call this one our front yard tree, or we'll call this, deciduous tree. And I'm going to select my insertion point so that when I do bring this in, I have a good point to actually grab from, and I'm going to set that as that midpoint. I'll say OK here. Now all we need to do is highlight that thing again, hit enter, and I'm going to type in WBlock into my command line, WBLOCK, hit enter, go to block, and we'll look for that tree, and it's right there, and we'll actually save it and write it to this file path. I'll stick it just straight to my desktop for easy access. So we'll go to my desktop, and I'll save it right there. And I'll say OK. So now if we wanted to reuse this throughout our site, we can either copy it here or, just simply bring in the block again. And we also have it for future use. So, and I will do a little bit of both because I'm going to have this tree kind of in the backyard as well. So if I wanted to copy it, I simply just highlight it. And now it's actually one entity because it's a block. And we can go to copy. And we'll grab it from its middle insertion point. And then we could place it right about here. Perfect. Now the other way we could do it, we can also insert that block. So we go insert, insert, and our block should be there since we just created it. I'll say OK. And we could place this one where it needs to go on our side as well. And I'm just going to copy this one again. So easy as that. So we've just created a cool tree, really neat looking sketchy looking tree for our site here. And we've also saved it in as a block so that we could use it for future projects down the line. So in the next lesson, we're going to do the shrubs that are actually located right around this area. And again, this will be our existing condition. And then a little bit later, we'll make some adjustments to this, and we'll also create our proposed condition. So I'll see you in the next lesson, and we'll get started on those shrubs.